All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Yelena. I'm one of the teaching assistants in data analytics program. So today I'm going to introduce you to Watson Analytics applications that you'll be using for your next assignment, and I'm going to help you get started. So here we go. That's tonight's agenda. We're going to learn what Watson Analytics is, and we're going to learn how to get started. And you're going to learn the Watson Analytics 3Ds and how to refine the data and asking natural language questions. You're going to learn a little bit about the prediction model and how to present your findings. But there's going to be another WebEx, the second part of the WebEx, where you're going to learn more about the presenting the findings. And I'm going to show you some helpful resources, right? So now, all of you may wonder, what's Watson Analytics? Well, it's a very intuitive program where I can just go in, I import my data, and it's going to find the relationships in the data for me, and it's going to help me understand my data, and where I can just go in and I can type the natural language questions in English language, and it will provide me with some suggested visualization. And this is unbiased analysis, and there is almost no learning curve. So speaking of learning curve, I need a volunteer tonight who's going to count how many lines of code I'm going to write in the entire evening, right? So, yeah. And here, this is a web page where you may want to look at the video about the Watson Analytics Smart Data Discovery. Now, let's move on. Here is a brief history. If you may remember, there was a Jeopardy game where the computer won the game. So you can learn more a little bit. Here are two links where you can watch the video and you can learn more, right? So that's how the thing started, right? So let's keep going. Now, what I did yesterday, all of you should have received the invitation. And what you need to do is go to your email, check your junk mail after this meeting. If you have not done it already, go to your email and find an email with an invitation, right? And the email is going to have a link or accept button that you need to click to accept the Watson Analytics invitation. Very important. For this class, you need to have an account on my subscription. The reason is that for your last assignment, you'll be sharing files. Only professional version always sharing files. And only professional version supports storybooks that we're going to cover later on, right? So that's something to keep in mind, right? So you only need to use the invitation for my subscription only, right? So after this meeting, go ahead and accept it if you have not done it already. Now, all of you will have to take the course. You need to go to the Big Data University, and here is the web page, and you'll need to register. You need to take a course. I believe it takes about 3 to 4 hours. And the course consists of videos, and there is some hands-on practice, and you have a test at the end of the at the end of the course. You have a test. Now, there is only one attempt to pass the test, and you get 2 attempts for each multiple choice question. But if you don't pass the course on the first attempt, well, there is a workaround. You would need to log in as a different user. You could use an alternative email and create another account at Big Data University, and you'll have to repeat the whole course. Now, but let's be positive, right? Let's think everybody will pass. Now, here we're going to make a law. Forget that the back button on your browser exists. Especially when you're taking a test, there is no back button. Just forget about it, right? And also, make sure that you submit the test before 1 hour limit elapses. So just make sure that, all right? So now, let's move on. All right, when you accept an invitation, you need to do it just once. This is a web page that you're going to use to log in. I recommend that you add this to your bookmarks. And here is a sign in, right? You click on the sign in. And when you do that, okay, and when you do that, this is what happened. You're gonna see the screen, and here you enter your IBM ID and you enter your password, right? So this is where you would log in. Now, so let's continue. This is a Watson Analytics landing page, right? Or they also call it a welcome page. Here you see 3 tiles. So basically, let me explain you this way. Yes, hello? Okay. So here we've got 3 tiles. Basically, this is a workflow. We import our data, we build our model, all right, and then we present our findings. So this is a workflow, right? We import the data, we build the model, right? We build the visualization, and here is where we create a display or a storybook. We'll cover storybook later on. Don't worry about the storybooks for right now. And now here, right, on the side panel, you're going to see, and I'll show you when we get into application, you're going to have the shared folder and a personal folder. I'll explain to you what that is. Here in the middle panel is where your data is, right? Each tile represents a data set, and I'll show you the toggle button, how you can toggle between different layouts. I'll show you when I start actually showing the application. But at this point, remember the workflow. We import the data, we do the model, and then we present our findings. Now, this is very important. Forget about the existence of the back button. It's just not there, right? Because if you use the back button, the results are unpredictable. So I put it big to make sure that you guys remember that you just don't have it. And here, this is the main menu, right? And you'll see it. I'll get to application, but before I do it, I wanted to point out that we're going to make a rule. Nobody is going to use the back button while in that application. Now, let me go in, and I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to actually demo the application. My screen. There we go. So this is a landing page I was talking about. Here, data, discover, display, right? So first we start with the data. And there are several ways to load the data, and I'll show you. All right. So now here I have personal area. Personal area is the data set that I import. It's everything that only I can see it. Only I or the administrator, right? Shared, it allows sharing files with your team. And later on, when we get to it, what's going to happen is I created a separate folder for each session, right? And you're going to look at the session where you are enrolled, and I'm going to create the study group for you. Later on, when we get to assignment 5, and it's going to be, I'm going to explain it in the next WebEx session. But for right now, let's make an agreement. All the work will be saved in your personal area. Any work that's saved in the root of the shared folder will be deleted. So just remember, this will be deleted. Why? Because this is available to everybody in the system, right? So anything saved at the root of the shared folder will be deleted without notice. So something to keep in mind. So now let's start with getting the data. How do I get the data? I click on New Data. There are several sources of options. There are several options to load my data. Watson Analytics provides several sample data sets. So I can click here, sample data, and I can pick any of this. Like, for example, I want to do the flying through San Francisco, right? I want to analyze this data. So I do this and I select import. What is it doing right now? Well, you see a little globe, it's processing. Secretly, it's trying to read the fields in my data, and it's trying to analyze the relationship inside the data for me. It's analyzing the relationship for me. And when it's done, When it's done, I'm going to see the dataset name. I'm going to see the date when I imported the data, and I'm going to see the data quality score, and I explain to you what that is, right? So now it's still processing. Here it is, right? So this logo here, it means that the data was initially in the CSV format. Now, ultimately, this is what else I could do is I could click on New Data, and I can import the local file. And to do this, you would just go to the folder where your file is, and you would just drag and drop, right? I'm not going to do it right now. Actually, let's do it. Let's just show you an example. Look at this. I drag and drop. I just drag and drop, and I'm going to hit import. Now, something interesting about the Excel files. If the Excel file has more than one tab, for the testing purposes, it takes the first tab. The data on the first tab will be imported for the testing purposes, right? When it takes the test. However, after the Watson Analytics course was written, Watson Analytics made an enhancement. If the spreadsheet has more than one tab, you're going to be able to choose which tab you want to import. So when you take a test, keep this in mind, right? For the testing purposes, first tab gets imported, right? Now, that's one way. Something else that I did here is that, look, in the shared folder, you will see another subfolder called More Sample Dataset, right? So I click on this to expand the shared folder, and then you click on the More Sample Dataset, and it's giving you some data sets that you may use for your assignments. But to use them, this is what you need to do. You would need to click on triple dot right here, right? Click on triple dot, click on Refine. You click on Refine. Whenever you click on Refine, it opens the data as if it was the spreadsheet, right? It opens it, and then when I go in, I would have to do it File, Save As, and I'm saving it into my personal area. Should the dataset be shared with us already? Well, yes. You should be able to see these datasets, and I explained to you. Yes, you should be able to see these datasets. When you accept your Watson Analytics invitation, you will be able to see those datasets. Yes. Yes, that's an excellent question. Yes, because what I did was, this is what you'll need to do. I'll show you how to get to it. You do not just click on a shared, you need to expand it. Basically, the left panel shows you the folder structure. The right panel shows you the content, right? So now, see that I'm inside the file. To go back to my landing page, do not use the back button. This is what you can use. You click on the logo. Clicking on the logo takes you back to this page. Now, let me explain to you again how to get to the folder, how to get to the sample datasets. The sample dataset that I showed you is, okay, let me see what the question is. Chat. Okay, right now there is no, well, there are shared datasets. You need to make sure that you're logging in to the account that I sent you an invitation. This is what you need to do. Take a look. Share. Do you see this plus sign? Yes. Excellent. You expand this. Now you're going to see the folder, More Sample Datasets. You're not going to see this whole list of folders that I do. I see it because I'm the account manager, and I manage the accounts for all the sessions from the fall and the spring. So that's why I see this many folders. What you will see is, you will see More Sample Datasets, and you'll see the folder for your session. So you need to click on More Sample Datasets in here, and the datasets will display in the right panel. Excellent. That was an excellent question. That's how you access it. All right. So here is a directory structure, and the right side is the directory contents. Yes. So this part is shared with you already. You have access once you accept yes. It's because of the settings. So now you're not going to see other users. I see it because I'm account administrator. Now what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at the, first let me go back to personal, and we're going to look at the university course satisfaction data. So here is my data set. So I have a student grade level, and this is a course satisfaction rating, age, gender, and then the price, the tuition, and so on, right? And my purpose, the purpose of my study is to predict the course rating. So course satisfaction rating. The satisfaction will be my dependent variable. It's also called the target variable, right? And the remaining variables are going to be my input variables. Yeah? So take a look at this here. These are the column headers, and this is the data. I want to make sure that my column headings are descriptive, right? I'm not going to call it XYZ, and you'll see why in a second. So now let's minimize and let me show you what it looks like. So here it is. This is the data, right? This is my data set. And now look, I can toggle. Here is a tile layout. I can toggle. If I like the list layout, I can toggle to the list layout, and I can toggle back to the tile layout. And I also can sort my data sets and more, right? So now it's sorted by last modified. Alright, so let me go in. Look, this is how you preview the data. You click on this ellipsis, and that opens the menu, right? The menu has several options: refine, replace, move, and delete. Be very, very, very careful. If you delete something unintentionally, there is no recycle bin, right? And in the slides, I put a recycle bin picture with the X on top, right? Remember, there is no recycle bin. Once you delete it, it's gone. So be very careful. Now, let me go refine. Refine. Here is a preview of how your data looks like, right? Remember, it's similar to the spreadsheet, and it's showing me the first 1,000 row, and here are my column names, right? And I can scroll back and forth. Now here, these buttons are your friends. If you make something that you did not like, right? If you perhaps remove the column and you want to undo it, here it is. You can undo, redo. This button is available on every single screen, and it's a help menu. So here, if I click, I can see my documentation on data discoveries or display. When I click, it's going to open up the new tab, and this is a documentation. It's very powerful. They keep it really up to date, and there are some videos and tutorials that help you get started. So let me close this out for right now, and we are back here. Now, let me show you what else you can see. Let me click. Here, actions. So now here, what you can do is you can show or hide the columns. If the column is checked, it will be used for the predictions, right? It will be visible. If my company has multiple business units, perhaps, right? And in one of the business units, I don't want the employees to know how much people paid for the course. What I could do is I could uncheck certain columns that I don't want people to see, and I can save a copy of the data without those columns, right? I can save multiple copies. I can save different versions, right? See this? If I uncheck the field, it won't show, right? I can exclude and include the fields that I want. I can create the new fields, calculations, right? So for example, I'm gonna click on the calculation, and I can do just an example. Let me put in, like here, when you create a calculation, it's going to create a new column, right? So I want to I select column, right? And here, just suppose that what I want to do is I want to make everybody 1 year younger. I go here age, and here I'm gonna do minus, and I click here, and I'm gonna select number, and I'm gonna type in 1, right? And I'm going to call my column new age. There we go. So now I'm gonna click done, right? And what Watson Analytics did for me, it added another column at the end. If I scroll all the way down, I'll see it. Okay, here we go. If I scroll, you will see the column, right? It's all the way at the end. Here it is, new age, right? It's taking a little bit to load, but what I recommend you to do is to be patient, right? Just be patient. And also make sure that you have a good internet connection, right? So here is the new age. What I did was I subtracted 1 from everybody's age. Now, do I really want to use this column in my predictions? Probably not. I will hide it, but before I do that, let me show you something else. I click on a column, I click on the column headings, and here what I could do is I could filter. Suppose that I'm only interested in students between 34 years old and 74 years old, just for example. What I do is I can adjust this slider to select the age range that I'm interested in, right? And here it's going to show my selection, and it's going to filter out the data rows that match the specified criteria. Now, I change my mind. I want everybody who does not fall in this age range. I can do invert. Or if I don't want to filter anymore, I can hit clear, right? So that's the filters. Here I can click on ellipses to see more properties. And here slide bar, it means that I'm selecting the values range. Select value, that's not going to work for the age column because the age is a continuous number, but in general, if you do select value, you'll get an option to choose which values you want to see. But you don't do this for the continuous columns, for the numeric column, right? Here, what you could also do is you can rename the columns, and you can specify if you want to sort the data by the column. And aggregation, aggregation will make sense when we get to the visualizations. I'll explain it to you. Now, so what I'll do right now is that I created this column and I don't want to actually use it in my analysis. So what I'll do is I need to uncheck it. Let me search for it. See this here? You can search for it. Oops. Sometimes Yelena needs to know how to spell. Okay, here it is. I uncheck it. And that's it. It's not going to be in my analysis, right? So now I have to clear my search, right? Alright. So now what you'll do is, now remember this. We never hit the back button, right? Never do this. Always let the program finish what it's doing. And now you have to click on save, right? And it's saving. When this little globe is spinning, it means that it's saving, right? Very important, before you log out, save all your work, okay? Save it. And make sure that, especially if you did not save the work, and then if you're trying to log in another browser, and if you're trying to open the same file in another browser, you might not be able to save your changes, right? Now, while it's saving here, you see this little user person. If you click on it, it's going to show you your account information, like your username and so on. Here is the number of remaining days on the subscription. Here are the notifications, right? So it's taken a while, and while it's doing it, you cannot, yeah. here we go. Well, all right, so now to go back to the main menu, you can click here and select Watson Analytics from here. Alternatively, you can click on a logger, right? You can alternatively click on a logger. So now, if you don't, well, hold on. Let me show you something else first. Let me show you the data quality score. I'm gonna click here. Clicking here, it's gonna open the data quality score. So what it is, it's looking at an individual scores for each field. For the numeric values, the data quality score is higher if the distribution is close to normal, right? Like a bell shape, like here, for instance. It's sort of like kind of close to the bell shape, or here, right? If the distribution is skewed, then the data quality score is lower. Similarly, for categorical values, it's looking at the distribution. Like, for example, suppose that I have only one student in Maryland, and the rest of the students in and if I have only a couple students in Maryland and most of my students in West Coast, right? That could affect the data quality score as well. And also missing values. Oh, nice. This data set is something interesting. This is the first data set that I did the demo with that has missing values. Take a look at this. There are 3% of missing values. And one way you can handle it is this. You can click on this column here, and I believe before, well, oh, here it is. Take a look at this. Do you see this checkbox? Do you see this checkbox? I'm going to uncheck it. If I uncheck it, I'm going to exclude the data rows with missing values. I unchecked it to exclude all observation missing a value for this variable. Similarly, I can do here, right? I can uncheck it, include blank, right? So this is what I did. This is one way to handle missing values. It might not always be a good approach because there is a risk of losing valuable data, right? Save. Now, keep this in mind. At this point, I just excluded, right? I excluded the observation with missing values. Sometimes you would want to replace it with the variable mean, so that way you would need to do, at this point, Watson Analytics does not support this, so you would need to do some pre-processing in advance in this Excel, right? So now what we're gonna do is, I showed you this, and I showed you the data quality scores, right? Here is more properties. You can define the sorting on a column, or you can change the column data type, right? And speaking of the data type, take a look at this. This is the state name. If I click here, I would have to select the individual state values. I would not be able to. There is no slider. I would have to choose the values physically, right? So let me go ahead and let's go back to our landing page right now, and we're gonna start exploring data. Delay loading data. Well, sometimes you're gonna see this, so let's do this. Let's close this. Let's close it. Well, once in a while you may see that. That's possible. That's possible. Well, sometimes it happens. So what you have to do is make sure that you have a backup, right? So you can recover the data from the backup. So you have your original file, and whenever you make whenever you make change, you save a refinement as a different copy. So that way you can always recover. In my case, I saved the copy, right? I saved the copy. I'll show you. So let's go click on the ellipses here, and let's rename this. Let's rename this. Right? I'll show you what I'll do. I'll rename this. Now what I'll do is take a look at this. This data, this is where I got it from. Shared. right? More data set. This is where it's from, and I got it from. Oops. It's in here. University satisfaction data, right? This one. Satisfaction survey for university. So let me show you what you will do to get this data into your personal area. You will click here on ellipsis. You're gonna click on refine, right? And you're gonna go save as. You're gonna save it as a copy. You go here, file, save as, and you're gonna save it to your personal area. I think I see what the problem is. When I was saving the file, I accidentally clicked on the X. Whenever it says saving, you let it save, you let it finish. I accidentally clicked on the X. So that's the reason I got an error message. Whenever it is saving, you should let it finish, right? And it's also the bandwidth. It could depend on your network speed, or number of users in the system, and on if Watson Analytics developers team is doing anything at that moment, right? If they're doing upgrade at that moment, then of course expect a little bit slower speed. So now while it's saving, let's go to the PowerPoint presentation and see. So here it is. This is what I was showing you, adding data, right? There's some sample data sets here. You would just click and new data, and you would just select this and click import, right? So we went over this. So let's see if it's still saving. Well, now what else you did here is that here is how you would upload your new data, right? You would need to you can just drag and drop the file from your Windows Explorer into this area here, right? And then you just click import. And here are some tips on the local file format. So if you in Microsoft Excel, you want to make sure that the headings are descriptive, and you want to make sure that there are no blank columns, right? And you want to remove all of the totals and subtotals, right? So no totals and subtotals. Oh, not sure what's going on. All right, let's just close this. Let's just close this out. Reset. Let's close this. Discard changes. Okay. Now let's go back. Uh-oh. Guys, sorry about this. Sometimes it happens. What we need to do is, when this happens, we need to be patient. Right? We need to be patient. Now, let me go back to the landing page. Oops. Here we go. Now, let me see something here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the data in a shared folder and save the analysis to my personal area. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is, so here it is, right? Here's my data. I'm going here. Well, sometimes unforeseen things happen. Like, for instance, there is a higher possibility that Watson Analytics might be doing some, yeah, here it is. So now, let's take a look at this. When I click on my data set, it's opening up the starting points for me, right? What is this? These are my column names: price sensitivity, core, destination, right? Satisfaction. All of these are my column names in the spreadsheet right here, right? So now what I could do is, my dependent variable is satisfaction. My dependent variable is satisfaction. What I could do is, I could click here, and behind the scene, Watson Analytics will create the new discovery for me. It's going to build a model for me. Now, here it is, right? It created the new discovery workbook. Here is a spiral model. So behind the scene, Watson Analytics is running the linear regression method for me, and this here are the predictors, right? My target variable is a satisfaction. Here, the closer this pin, see, every pin corresponds to a single predictor. The closer the pin to the core, the stronger is the predictor. So here, if I hover, so this is a course is a course title, right? It's a predictive strength of the course rating. If I hover here, it's an age range, individual's age. And see, the problem is I see the age twice. I should have excluded either the age or the age range from analysis, right? I should have done it. Okay, well, here, this is a set of related discoveries. For example, Watson Analytics might decide that, Elena might be interested in this tree, right? The tree for the tree model for the satisfaction. Or Elena might be interested to see the course by age, right? So Elena might be interested to see this visualization. So here is a list of suggestions, and this is dynamic. It's based on what I'm currently looking at. So now what I have to do is I'll need to save it. So let's go here, and we're gonna save as. I'm gonna save it in the personal folder, and I'm gonna save it. Oops, it saved as a new discovery set. I did not mean to do it, but I can rename it later. No worries, I can rename it later. I'll show you how. Now, what you want to do here is that you can click on each tab here and you can rename it, right? So let's see. Well, you're going to put something descriptive for you, right? So here it is. It's my spiral model, and what I could do here is that I can click on a plus sign right here, and it will add another tab to my workbook. See this? So it's going to show the course rating by course. It's going to show the overall average course rating by course. How do I know that it's showing me the average? If I go here, if I find my satisfaction over here, let me scroll. Satisfaction, see the satisfaction here? If I click here, look here. If I go here in the properties, aggregation is average. Do you see this? This is how I know that it's showing average. For this specific purpose, I want the average. But if I was looking at the price, sometimes I want to see the minimum, sometimes I want to see the average, sometimes I want to see the sum, right? So to change it, you would just need to click on the arrow and select, right, what you need to look at. But here, this is correct, right? We want to see the average course ratings. And here, it's showing me by course. Now, take a look at this. Now, suppose that I want to see if gender. I want to see if gender has an impact on the course rating. So, in other words, right now, I see the bar chart that shows me the course rating per course name. I want to have a separate bar chart like this, but I want it by the gender. Take a look, pay attention. I select gender and I put it in a multiplier. What it will do is it will create a separate chart for gender. Then I can say, does gender really determine the course rating? Well, not really. Let's look at the bar size. They're approximately the same, right? That's how I would know that gender doesn't really have an effect, right? So this is a multiplier. Whenever I drag the column into multiplier area, it's just giving me an option to. It's going to show a separate plot per value, right, of gender. Now, what is this? What is this? This is a variable names, right? And I can click here and change the variable if I want to, right? What else I could do is well, this is going to be empty. This is only available for decision tree right now, so I'll show you what I mean. I can format it, I can change the colors, I can hide the title and the colors, and then I want to change how my axes look like and more and so on, right? I can show the stacked. Well, basically here are the options for your appearance, right? You can uncheck show details, right? You can show hide details and more, right? So, and here you can show hide the related visualizations, and also keep in mind that the related visualizations that you see depend on the visualization that you're currently looking at. Now, let me do this. Let me rename this here, this tab, and I'm just gonna say by gender. So I just wanted to know if gender matters. Well, apparently it doesn't. Now let me add more. To add more, I'm gonna click on a plus sign, and suppose that I don't see what I want, right? I don't see it. I have several options. I can click on how to ask question, and I can use this guide to help me. And there are different types of questions. You can do the comparison, right? How does something compare by? Or you can do the predictions, or you can do the aggregations such as sums and averages, right? And so on. Let me close this out. But I kind of know what I want to do. I want to do the satisfaction model, right? Right? I tap the satisfaction, hit the enter key. Here it is. I want to see what drives my satisfaction. I want to build my decision tree, right? Or it's rather a regression tree. Now it's running. Here, what you want to pay attention to is that if your predictive variable is numeric or discrete. In the example that I'm doing today, it's numeric, right? This is a numeric because it's a continuous number. For the continuous number, it's going to show the average. So basically, what it did was it picked the profile, it picked the student profile that meets these conditions over here, right? Sophomores, males, and here are the age ranges and the course, right? It picked specific course and the student profile, and there are 1,015 students that fall into this profile, and this is the average rating given by the student. Here is my second profile. Course, the course level is junior, male, and the people completed more than 0 course, right? And here I have 732 people, and here is a rating, right? It's an average rating. So what you see here depends on data type of my target variable, and sure, I'm definitely going to show you what it looks like for categorical, but first, since we're on this page, now here you can show hide details, right? Obviously. So now, okay, so what else you can do is here right now, I'm reading the decision rules. Alternatively, I can see the tree preview. I can build my decision tree. And here, now pay attention, this is a new feature. So basically, let's close this out first. Pay attention, there are some new features if you've used this model before. Here, basically, look, here it's giving you the preview of the whole tree. The area that's in the box, the areas in the box is the area that you see right now. This is a visible area, part of the tree. If I want to see the entire tree, I would need to click on these arrows. Clicking on these arrows, right? But of course, I cannot read anything. So what I have to do is I have to zoom in. I click on the plus sign to zoom in, right? Keep clicking. Here, whatever is highlighted is the area of a tree that's visible. And I can click on expanding, right? And I can collapse the branch, and I can expand the branch, right? I'm just showing you here what I can do. I can expand, collapse, and here the color code of the node represents the satisfaction. If you see a down arrow, it means the satisfaction is below average. All right. So now let me do this. Let me collapse it, and I need to show you how to read the tree. So now I'm starting from the root node, right? I'm starting all the way from the root. Oops, I'm trying to collapse it. And I want to start, when you read the tree, you start from the first node, which is the root node. And then you look at your first splitting variable, right? Which variable is it using to make a decision? And if I go in, course, right? So here, my first splitting variable is the course. So it's looking at what the course is. And based on what the course is, it's taking the appropriate branch, right? It's taking the corresponding branch. Like for example, see this? This is a support a finance course. If I hover, it's going to show me how many students rated that course. And in this case, it's 4,103. It's 80% of the data. And their average satisfaction was 3.55. Right? So it's telling me how many people fall in this node, right? And I can click here to expand this. This is my next criteria. My next criteria is a student grade level. And here, if it's a sophomore, it says it's unusually high. It means that sophomores rated this course above average, right? The satisfaction. Now here, this is not the leap node yet, right? Here it's showing me that I have 3,479 people fall into this node, and their average satisfaction is 3.44, right? So that's our average rating. Now what I can do is I can click and keep on expanding, and this is what you do. This is how you take. Basically, we had a set of students' profiles, and we knew how those students rated the course. We use their data to predict how the new course will be rated, so to speak, right? We use the current rating to see how a new student will rate the course. Here you also have options. You can toggle between the details. You can toggle between the details and the summary. So for instance, right now, it does not show an arrow, it shows just the color code. And if I hover, it's showing me how many people fall into that node, right? But it does not show me anymore if it's above average or below average. It just goes by here. The color code, the darker the color code, the higher the satisfaction. So the biggest enhancement that Watson Analytics recently did is that it made tree navigation much easier than it was before. Right? So here I can see which area is visible, and this was added about 1 week ago. Yeah. So this is a very new. Right? So yeah, and I keep on clicking expanding. So this is really interesting. Now let me save this. Let me rename this. And I'm going to call this tree, right? Well, of course, in your analysis, you're going to use something that has more meaning to you. Now what we'll do here is we have to save it, saving. So see, now it's faster. Apparently, sometimes you may have hit a system in a wrong moment, so to speak. Things happen, so you need to back up, right? So that way you don't lose your work. You have a backup. You can always go back to the backup. Well, right? Now let's do this. Let's go back to the landing page. So what I did now, basically, I created this several models, right? I created several models here. I just did 3 visualizations. I saved this. Let me close it. To close it, look, I click on the arrow, and I have to click here, right? Let me close it. Now, where is my workbook? What do you think? I have to go to Discover page, right? Oops, and I have to click on the Personal, right? So now here, it shows you here, see this is what the workbook that I just created. And here, number 3 means that the workbook that I just created has 3 tabs. And this is just the logo, means that it's a discovery set. And to rename it, I have to click on the ellipsis, and I have to do the rename. And I'm going to name it as course rating. Right, course rating. Here it is, rename. So, what I did here, just in summary, I imported my data, I created my model. Now, I need to present my findings to the manager, right? To the supervisor. What I have to do is, I have to prepare a display. Today, we're going to discuss only the dashboard, right? We're going to discuss the storybooks next time. And don't worry, if you're not sure what storybooks means at the moment, don't worry. I'll take care of it, right? So let's do it. Let's click on Display, New Display, New Display, and we're gonna call it Course Satisfaction Dashboard. I'm calling it Course Satisfaction Dashboard. I'm gonna pick Dashboard. I'm gonna set Create. Now, it's gonna give me the layout option, the page layout option. How many visualizations per page do I want? I usually select either 4 or 1. It will make sense later on as you start working with this, but trust me, this is what I want to do right now. Now, here I can add 4 visualization, and I can add the shapes, and I can add the text. I can create the new visualization. I have a lot of options. Now, let me show you what I will do right now. I'm going to click on Personal, and when I do this, I see all workbooks, I see all display workbooks that I saw over here on the Discover. See this? This is the Discover tab on the Personal area. Here are the workbooks that I have created, right, since last summer. So I see all of these workbooks in there. So now, to go back to where I just was, never click the back button. You click here. This is a menu, and this is my dashboard that I had opened, right? This is how I return. I never use the back button. My back button does not exist in this application. Now, I go to Personal, right? This is what I just created, isn't it? This is a workbook that I just created with 3 tabs. I expand it, and here are my 3 tabs. Now, I want to add these 3 visualizations to my display. This is what I want to share with my manager. So now, I select this visualization, pay attention, and I put this on top of blue arrow. You want to make sure that the blue arrow lights up. Here we go. So here, I added the first visualization, right? Now, I want to add the next one. Similarly, I click, drag and drop. Is any of you keeping track how many lines of code I wrote so far? Okay. It's so simple, isn't it? Drag and drop, drag and drop. I don't need to write any R code, I don't need to write any C++ code, anything like that. So now, here we go. Now what we have to do is always save it. And you want to save it in your personal area, right? Because any work saved in the root of the shared folder will be gone. That's a rule, right? So here it is. Now, very important, the dashboard can be in the two modes, view mode and edit mode. If the dashboard is in the edit mode, basically you are able to make changes. You're able to add visualizations to it and add filters. You're changing it, right? If the dashboard is in the view mode, you cannot make changes to it, but you can just preview, right? You can just play it around. Basically, my supervisor, when my supervisor looks at my dashboard, they're gonna see it in the view mode. Like, see this? I click here. This is the view mode. I cannot edit anything, but this is interactive, right? I can still click on this and so on, right? I can look at the spiral. I can see my drivers list. See this? Here I can toggle between the spiral model and the drivers, right? Because they don't fit on a single page, so that's nice. Watson Analytics added the toggle option, which I believe was not there lately. Alright, so what we could also do is, to go back to edit mode, I have to click on the pencil, and here are your best friends, right here, undo and redo, right? Now, what else do I have here? I have the widget, so if I want to, if I have to, I can add any shapes and links in there, right? So here was a sunshine. I just want to add just something like that, right? And you can always remove. To remove, you just select this and the menu will, and if you select this, you'll see the option to remove. Here it is. See this? This means remove. And I can refresh, and I can change properties and more, right? So let's close this. What else I could do is I could add filters. Now, pay attention, because this could be very important for the test. Here, right now, I have one tab in the dashboard, right? Let me go ahead and add the second tab. I'm going to add just one, and I'm going to add the existing visualizations that I created. I'm going to discoveries, and let me do this. The other day, I play around with a similar data set that the purpose was to predict if the student is at risk of the academic failure. So let me find this. And what I'll do is I'll show you what I mean. So, oh, here it is. That's a retention, academic retention. Let's do this. So here is a retention prediction. And what I'll do here, take a look at this. This is my decision tree for the academic retention, right? I added this to this tab. Here we go, and let me close this. Right? I added this. So this is my second tab, and let me rename it as retention. So here is my retention, and here is my satisfaction, right? Satisfaction. Here it is. So I've got two tabs right now, right? My dashboard has two tabs. What I could do is I could add a filter that applies only to this specific tab, right? Or I could add a filter that applies to all tabs, right? So notice that I click here, filters, and here is the list of variables in my data. Like for example, suppose that I want to show only students at the specific grade level, right? So what I have to do is I have to drag and drop, right? I drag and drop my variable into the filters area, close this. Now what I have to do is I still have not defined my filter. I just edited it, but I did not define it. I have to click on ellipses right here, and that, when I click on ellipses, it's going to give me an option. It's something similar to what you saw in Refinement, right? I can select the values here. Delete, clear, edit filter values. That's what I need to do. And here, suppose that I want only sophomore, seniors, and juniors, right? So what I have to do is I have to select what I want and unselect what I don't want, right? And then I close this out, right? So basically here, you just select what you want, and here it's showing me that I selected 3, and all of my visualizations are going to update now, right? So I'm updating all of the visualizations. Now, take a look at it, pay attention. Where did I add this filter? I am on the first tab right now. I navigate to this tab. My filter did not apply. Why? Because I only added the filter to the first tab. See this? There are 2 options, this tab or all tabs, right? Here, the filter only affects this current tab. It's because what I did. It's because what I selected, right? So now, what else you could do is you can add a filter that affects all tabs all over the board. To do this, we click on filter, and what we'll have to do is we have to pick the variable name, right? Suppose that I want to filter some universities. Here is going to open a long list, I think, and you can select, you can check and check what you want to see and what you don't want to see, right? This is what you do. Now let's close this. And I think it's also related to which browser I use. I should have used Chrome because Chrome is a little bit faster. But anyhow, you click here and it's giving me, and I have to select the edit filter values. And in here, see here, it's giving me several universities. So I can select which universities I want to include or exclude, right? So I'm done right now. Unclick, right? And it's supposed to update, but at this time it is updating both tabs. This filter applies across all my dashboards, right? This will apply across all my dashboards on both tabs. And the reason is because I put my filter in this area right over here, all tabs. Now, here, since we are here, here this is a decision tree model, and this specific decision tree model determines if the student is retained, if the student is retained at the university. So here, the values are retained or not retained. Here, in this case, the target variable was categorical, right? It has 2 values, retained, not retained. The color code green is retained, and the blue is not retained, right? So now what I have to do, what I can toggle here between decision rules and decision tree. If I go to decision rules, see this, so here is a profile of students who don't get retained, and basically here is a student profile, right? Live off campus, don't belong to any club, and visited the infirmary unit more than 0 time, right? So here is a profile, and here it says that I have 230 students who fall into this profile, and out of 230 students, 88% of them are not retained. 88% are not retained, right? So basically here, based on my profiles of students, I can predict whether or not my new student will be retained. I'm going to look into which profile the student falls into, right? Yeah. So here, this is what I'll do. I have to look here. That's how I use my model. Now, here I can toggle. I can look at the rules for retained instead. And basically, the students who are more likely to be retained, the people who live on campus, who don't get sick, basically, who attend at least one club, and whose grade point average is above, well, I just saw it, 2.91. We have 1,065 people who fall into this category, and everybody in that category was retained, right? So I kind of look, if my student meets all of these conditions, he or she more likely to be retained. And this is showing me the overall prediction strength. It's about 90%, and which is really good, right? It's really good. But what you want to keep in mind is that if your prediction strength is 100, is it really good? Well, keep in mind there is a risk that the model could be overfitting the data, right? So that's something that you're gonna see, might see later in your courses. That the model could be overfitting the data sometimes. Now, here there is an option here. I can toggle. I can turn on and off the details, right? I can turn on and off the details. This is also relatively new functionality, right? Before it was added about a month ago, yeah. And now here, what I could do, see, so here right now I'm not in the discovery. I'm not in the model. I'm in the display, right? But I can use my display to still toggle, right? I can still use it to toggle between decision tree and decision rules. I cannot really much modify it, but I can still look at it, right? So now what I'll do, I have to save this. Let me save this. Save. Always save your work, right? Saving. Good. Now what I'll have to do is let me go back. Let me go back to the dashboard, and I'll show you where it is. So you go to display. This is where it is, course satisfaction dashboard. This is what we just did, and here are the options. Now, remember, you can rename it, delete, but if you delete, is there a recycle bin? I don't think so. Move, don't worry about this for right now, but you'll worry about it when the time comes to share files with your classmates. And I promise, I don't lie. I always try to keep up with my promises that I'm going to show you how to share files later on. We're going to have another WebEx. So, right? So let me go back. Something else. Something very important I want to show you. There is more than one way to ask questions about your data. So pay attention. I can go in here on my data page and I can say satisfaction. What Watson Analytics is going to do is it's going to go through all data sets that I can access. It will go through all data sets that I can access and will try to answer the question for me. It will look at everything in the shared area and everything in my personal area. Right? Here is a suggested exploration, and here is the data set that it used to come up with it. Now, I can go to Discover page, and I can do the same thing, right? I can type satisfaction, right? And it's going to do the same search for me. The search is done all over the board. All data sets that I can access, right? All right. On the other hand, if I go on my data tab, and if I find my data in here, and let me see, so here it is, the satisfaction survey for university. If I click over here, right? Here, it's giving me the options. It's giving me the options. Oh, by the way, take a look at this. Do you remember there was an error before? It's gone. The issue resolved itself. The issue that I had was Yelena was impatient. Sometimes patient is a virtue. Sometimes, well, but the issue got resolved itself. So now, here it is. Now, if I ask the question here at this location, it will only search the data set that I clicked on. If I click on the data set and put my question, it will only apply to the data set that I clicked on, right? So that's something to remember it, right? That's something to pay attention. There is more than one way to ask questions. If I ask it here, right, whether I'm on data or on Discover tab, I'm searching or I'm looking at all the data that I can access. If I click on this data set and ask question, then I'm only searching the data that I clicked on. Alternatively, I can click here, go New Discovery, and I can pick my data here that I want to look at, and I can ask my question. Click OK, and it will open the questions choice for me. So that's another way, right? That's interesting. Well, all right. So let's close this out. Now, what else? I have not shown you. Let's see. So, oh, I did not show you. I see what I did not show you. I forgot to show you the decision tree, the confusion matrix, because yeah. So let's take a look at this. I want to look at the categorical variable, because the confusion matrix is only available for the categorical variable. So let's look at here. See if I can find this. Okay. Now I click here the tree. So here is my decision tree for the student retention, right? So it's the target variable in this case, if the student was retained or not, it's a categorical variable. Now, if I click on the analysis tab, here it shows me how significant each predictor is, right? And apparently the housing is the most important predictor of the student retention. Then comes the club membership. Then here is the number of times, on average, how many times the student looked for the medical help, right? So basically, that's what the variable means, but that's a significance level, right? But the variable basically it is infirmary visit is how many times the person looked for the medical help. And this is the overall GPA. This is not the GPA value. This is a significance value. So nobody has a GPA as low as this. So don't let this number scare you. Now, so let's scroll down here. This is just showing you which variables were not used in the model. So as you can see, gender, right? And what you could do also is that you can look. See this? What you can look here is that you can go at the drivers, and you can click on any of this here, right? It will create another discovery. And then what you can do is you can check if the gender makes a difference. And you'll see that it's not, right? You'll see that it does not. If I drag and drop the gender to the multiplier area, right, the same way as I did it for another visualization, you will see that the gender does not really matter. Let me close this out. But anyhow, gender is not a significant predictor of the student retention, apparently. But now let me show you what I was trying to show. This is, oops, scroll more down. This is a classification table, but the books also call it confusion matrix. We have the predicted values and actual values. So here is actual not retained and actual retained. And we have predicted not retained and predicted retained. So here it's showing me that I have 631 students who were predicted as not retained, and they were in fact not retained. I have 360 students who were predicted as retained, but they were not, right? I have 4,978 students who were predicted as retained, and they are retained. Now, guess how do I get my classification accuracy of the model? See this? The numbers on the diagonal are correct predictions, right? So what I have to do is I take the sum of numbers on the diagonal and divide it by the total sum, right? The total sum of numbers is the number of students I have, right? On the diagonal, it's correct prediction because it's not retained, predicted as retained. Retained, predicted as retained, right? So these numbers are important. And here you've got the percent of correct predictions. That applies to the not retained, predicted correctly as not retained. Retained, predicted correctly as retained. And this is the overall accuracy, right? So this is important, and I think it's going to be, maybe if not this assignment, it's going to be in the next assignment. Now here, what it's telling you is that you have some numerical variables, and see, the values is numeric. What it's doing is it's doing something called internal discretization to determine the splits, right? Like number of infirmary visits, that's a number, right? So it's trying to, or here is a better example. See, here is a better example. Total class hours. What it's doing here is that it's splitting it less than or equal to 23 or greater than 23. And it's doing the equal frequency. So it's trying to make sure that you have approximately the same number of students with less than 23 hours and with more than 23, right? It starts here, right? It starts here, and it's trying to make sure that it wants to find it wants to split the total hours in a way that the number of students are approximately equal. Well, that's another way to explain, right? So that's what the equal frequency binning is. Equal width is when you want to have approximately the same bin interval, regardless of how many students fall into that range. But this is equal frequency. Now, so here is the confusion matrix, right? I showed you that. And remember, here it's showing me which section of the tree I'm looking at. That's the case for all variables, for the categorical and for numeric, right? Here it is. So that's really neat, because if I want to see the bottom portion, look, I can just move this. Huh, that's neat. If I move this rectangle, it's another way to scroll through the tree. That's neat. I like this. So now let's go ahead and save. Now, all of these new functionalities are nice, but in order to get something nice, there comes the price. And the price is every Friday night at approximately 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. the system is not available. They're doing the maintenance, right? So there is a schedule maintenance, and I'll show you later where to get the schedule. Usually it's on Sunday night. Once in a while they need to do it on Saturday, but you need to plan you schedule your study time accordingly, right? But the plus side is that they keep on adding new functionalities, and those functionalities help us get more insights about our data. Alright, here is what else I did not show you. This is called the data tray. And I can use this data tray to add additional columns and to add hierarchies and to add additional calculations to my visualization. But anything that I do here, any filters that I add here, will apply only to this specific visualization here. Anything that I add here will not apply to all visualizations that use this data, right? Now, let me go back to the slides to make sure that I covered what's very important. So here is a local file format, right? We covered that. Now, here is how you refine data. Oh, by the way, there is a little change. If you notice here, the refine was at the bottom, and I'm so glad that the option is now at the top. I'm so glad, because before, about 1 week ago, if I click here, the first option that I saw was delete. So by accident, I could select delete, and there is no recycle bin. So apparently, this change may have happened during the last maintenance. So the refine option was moved to the top, right? So if you notice that the screenshot is a little bit 1 week old, so don't worry about it. Well, just remember there is a refine option. You click on ellipses and you get the refine option, right? And refining is basically, you can see the data quality score, and you can also see, you can move the data, you can rename the data, and more, right? That's what you do here, the option. Now, here it's just showing you, it's a review of the refine interface options, right? And all those buttons that I showed you earlier today. Here is basically showing the column property, but the list of options is getting bigger, right? It's getting, there are more choices that we can do right now, right? So now let's go back. I want to make sure that so here is, we talked about the data quality score, and there is one example on this slide that I have one field in one of the data sets where all data rows have the same value. Sometimes you may have a field where you have all data rows have the same value, or you may have a unique identifier. So those are the fields that you may want to exclude from your analysis. Like here, that's an example. That's a Reef students data set. Okay, so if I go to refine, I'll show you what I mean. That's a screenshot from this data set. So if you look at the properties, right? If you look at the properties, I may have excluded that column. It's because there is one column here. It is the state. I excluded it. And why did I exclude the state from my analysis? Let me show you. I click it back. Take a look. It's because all over the place, the only value of my state is New York. So I was not interested in this field. It's because it's New York, right? Everywhere. So let me show you what's going to happen if I click on the data quality score. Here it is, data quality score. It's going to show me this. Nothing. It couldn't determine the data quality score. It's because there's only single value. Now here, this is showing me that this column is a unique identifier. So you want to exclude this column. Always exclude unique identifiers, right? And exclude this one, because it's just one value. There is no insight that you can gain from it. Now, here is your best friend. I did something I did not want to do, and I can always undo, right? You might be wondering how many steps I can go back. Well, that's a good question. Don't know the answer yet. Okay, so now what you can do is you can just exit it unsaved. Right? You exit and then you'll be prompted, discard the changes. Now, very important, remember it, and I'll keep on repeating it. Do not use the back button, and do not save anything at the root of the shared directory, because this data is visible for everyone. Anyone can go in and modify, and we have more than 300 users in the system. Now, I like to make sure that I cover everything. here is how to do the data groups, and I think I did not cover it. So basically, let me go into my data, and I think data groups are important. So here, and here's my satisfaction story. So I'm gonna click here, I'm gonna click refine. Basically, the data group, I call it, some books call it binning, and suppose that I have a numeric variable, such as age, for instance. I can create an age range, right? So that's what it means. Or I can have the price, and I can create the price range rather than the price. Oops. And to do this, what I'll need to do is I have to click on, I click here, I can do the data group, right? And what I need to do is I have to select my, creating a data group secretly means that I'm creating another variable, right? So, but I don't want it to group by year. What I want to do is I want to do the tuition, or let's see, price. Let's do or let's do student traveling distance. How about that? I'll do the traveling distance. And let me do the distance range, right? And here it is. That's what it's doing. Here, this is equal width, because it's gonna take my my field, and it's going to divide the data into the bins, and by default it's equal width. I can change it if I want to. I can change it. I can change the number of bins, but let's keep as is for now, because I wanted to show you what I was just doing. And if I scroll all the way back, I'm going to see my newly added field, and it's still loading. But once it uploads, instead of the distance value, here it is. I see the ranges. See this? So this is what I did. I divided into ranges. And similarly, I can apply grouping to the categorical values. For instance, if I have a state, I can group the state into the east, southeast, northeast, and so on, right? So there are a lot of things that you can do, and you'll find the course really helpful. But again, the course is a starting point. If you're like me, you learn a lot by doing. Now here, it's basically, see this? Keep this picture in mind. Whenever you deleted something, keep this picture in mind, that there is no recycle bin. Alright? This one is basically about asking questions, and we went over it. Remember several locations where you can ask questions, and here is more on asking questions. Here is a spiral visualization that we did, right? And what I did, basically, I summarized it for you. And here is just showing how it's going to look like when the variable is numeric, right? The target variable can be numeric, or it can be categorical, and I'm basically summarizing it for you. Now here, I'm just summarizing you what analysis part can give you, and this is only for the decision trees right now. Confusion matrix is only available if the target variable is categorical, and you will have a copy of this slide. I'll make sure that you get this. This is the latest copy of the deck. And here I added an explanation that you can have. It's an explanation for different cells of this matrix. And here I just added some explanations of the decision tree and different options that you have. This is another type of visualization that you can play around with the grids and the summary table. And when we do the second WebEx session, I'm going to show you more visualization types, including maps and more. Here, just showing you the steps. We use the steps to create the display. So that's how you would present your findings to your manager, right? And I'm just showing you the different options in the toolbar, and so on, right? And I went over how to do the filters, but I did not show you how to remove the filters. So if I'm going back to my displays, here is it, displays, right? And this is a course satisfaction dashboard. And if I click here, right, to remove the filter, now pay attention. There is a difference between clearing filter and removing filter. To clear filter, it means that I want to remove the filter criteria. Clearing filter removes only the filter criteria, but the filter itself still here. Removing the filter removes the filter entirely, right? Clear filter means to clear the filter criteria. Removing the filter means to remove the filter entirely, right? So that's what it is. Now let's go back. Here is basically showing you have the same options, right? So if I go back to this landing page, I have the sorting options. I can sort by name, and I can also I can change my layout, and I can search. Here we go. So if I know that my data, if my display contains the word student, and I have a lot of stuff in here, I can just search, right? And I can search the personal folder, or I can search all folders that I can access, right? Or all folders in my personal folder, rather. I can create the subfolders in my personal folder, right? So if I have a lot of work, what I could do is I could create subfolders inside my personal folder. So basically, to do this, I would just click on New Folder, and for instance, Assignment. And I want to make sure that the personal is active. Create. And that will put Assignment 1. That will put Assignment 1 subfolder inside my personal area. Okay? So then, what I could do is I could go back to my work, and I can move the work that I did into here. Assignment 1, move. Okay? And here is my file. Alright? So here, this is for right now. All your work should be in a personal area only. It's for right now. When we get closer to the group work, we'll discuss, right? In a shared area, what you see is this folder, more sample data set. You're not going to see the folders for the sessions that you're not enrolled in. And if you have an account from last semester under my subscription, all your work is saved. Okay? If you had an account under my subscription, it does not matter which course you took, right? Or if I created an account for you when you attended the face-to-face workshop. If you have it under my subscription, it's still there. All your work is saved. And if it's the case, I contacted you and I send you the password reset instructions just in case. All right. So now here are some important rules. So here, what I did was I put an example. This is an example of the work that will be deleted. See the shared root folder and see where it's saved? This is an example. This is due for deletion. Right? Now here, this is a web page that you would want to check for maintenance. Mark your calendar. During the maintenance window, you won't be able to do any work, so you want to set aside the time. Most of the maintenance is planned. Once in a while, there could be an emergency maintenance, but this is how all systems are, right? This page lists the supported browsers. Not all browsers are supported, right? So you want to check that web page to find out. Here, this is your friend too, because here you have questions and answers forum. So sometimes when we have a question, there is a high chance that someone else already asked the same question, right? So I can go in and I can search, right? Like for instance, I have a link to maintenance schedule. Or what I could also do is I can click here, for instance, data refinement, and I can see what questions people ask about the data refinement. Ah, there we go. I have a problem. Excel does not recognize my date column. I can see somebody already reported this problem, right? Or I can post my own question and see if somebody can help me. Right? So this is a good resource. You can get your questions answered here, right? So now let me see what else we have. Here are some interesting use cases, and you're gonna some interested web pages rather. You're gonna get these slides. You have a web page that lists all of the use cases. There is a Watson Analytics YouTube channel. There is a Twitter page and a Facebook page. And then there is a step-by-step guide. And there is some documentation channel on YouTube. So basically, we've got 2 channels on YouTube. And a lot of you probably live in the Washington, D.C. area, so some students asked me to provide some examples where the software could be used for the government. So here is a web page. And here is another web page for the statistical terms. Sometimes if you need a refresher on some terminology, you can check. Here are some new use cases. This is a new use cases, right? And now it's a good time to ask questions. Do we have questions? Let me open up the chat area to see what questions are in there. Oh, how do I share the results? Excellent question. Now, what you could do is for your assignment, this is what you could do. Oops, let me go back. Now, I'm going to in the discovery, take a look at this. I'm going to the discovery, and I'm going to click on here, right? So this is my retention discovery. To submit for the assignment, this is what you could do. So here is a decision tree, and just assume I'm happy with how it looks like, right? And I want to submit this for grading, and I want to mail this to my instructor. This is what I can do. I click here, share. I have an option. I can download the visualizations in this workbook as an image. Download, right? I can download it as an image, as a PDF, or as a PowerPoint, right? Alternatively, I can email it to myself. And if I do email it, I can choose if I want to do all images or if I want to do, I can choose the format and I can choose the images that I want to include. Now, I need to tell you that if you're using an email, use the Google Chrome. It's much better for the email than Firefox. And I physically tested it, so that's how you do it. This is how you download the visualizations, right? But sharing files with your team, we will cover it on the next WebEx. We will do it on the next WebEx, right? But on the next WebEx, by the next time, all of you, later on in the course, all of you will be assigned to the groups. And what will happen is that here you'll see the shared, and you'll see the folder for yours. You'll see right now, you should see more sample data sets folder. And later on, you're going to see the folder dedicated for your sessions that you're enrolled in, right? Like, for example, from last fall, see this? I have a session from in the fall. This is a Data 610 session 9040 in the fall. And what happened was there was a separate folder for each group. Each group had a separate folder. And this is where you would see your files as a group. This is coming. I'm going to review this. And trust me, Elena tries to be honest. And I'm going to show you how that works, right? We'll get to that. But let me look at the chat to see what questions we have. Chat. Yeah, this is how we share results. Okay. So make sure that when you log in to Watson Analytics, make sure that you see the shared, right? Shared, yes. And inside the shared folder, you see more sample data set, and you might see the folder for your session, but it's nothing in there yet, so don't worry. Later, when you are assigned to the study groups, I'm gonna do the configurations for the teams in Watson Analytics. I'll take care of it. But for right now, the next 2 or 3 assignments, they're individual. So yeah. So now questions. If you don't have a question, then Yelena has a question. What are the three?
Yelena, how you doing? Do you hear me all right over there?
Yes, I do.
How you doing? It's David. Thank you for the presentation. I do have a question. Going back to earlier, where you talked about adding a column, and you just kind of gave that quick example of adding a +1. Do you have any examples that you've done? I guess that have been a little more helpful. Like what would be a use case that we would actually need to do that?
For instance, you want to add hierarchy is an example. Or you can add sum. For example, suppose that you have a salary, right? You can have the base salary, you can have tips, right? And then you want to calculate the total earnings, so you've got the sum of 2 columns. Or you can add hierarchy. So basically, you can add a field called location, which is, I need to find a good example. I may have created one where you can do, for example, I want to define, I have countries and I have the state, right, for the United States, and I have a city within the state, right? So you can create a hierarchy column, or you can create a column that's difference, right? Or like, for example, you have a column that's cost, then you have a column called tax, and then you want to calculate the grand total. That's one example where you would do this, right? Or you could have the students, or if you have the students, you have the students' exam scores, right? And you have the test 1, test 2, test 3, and each test has its own value, and you want to calculate the average grade, right? Is it a good example?
Okay, I understand. So it's not just plus and minus. You have other options like in Excel.
Yes, you have well, yes and no. You can add 2 columns. Yeah, it might not be as much as in Excel, but it can be a sum of 2 columns. It can be a difference of 2 columns. Yeah, like if you go to refine, yeah, you can add some functions. It's really powerful, and that's one reason I like this tool. It's a lot that we can do, yeah, and I get really excited. So here it is, calculation, and see this. It's if I click here, see this. I can do a lot of stuff. I can do my functions even, count, maximum, minimum, and so on. Or like I can do the average GPA per location, or I can do the total price per location, something like that. So it's a lot of power, and basically, when you take the introductory course, this is just the first step. You learn the most just by getting in and actually doing it. Do as many tutorials in the classroom as you can, yeah, and watch the videos. Yeah, sure, yeah, but I hope I answered the question. Did I answer the question?
Yes. Thank you.
Sure. Do we have more questions? I like questions. Questions are great. Questions? Well, if you don't have questions, I have a question. What are the 3Ds of Watson Analytics? So everybody is gonna pass this, right? Take a look. Data, discover, display, right? So data, discover, display. These are the 3Ds. That's a workflow. We collect the data, we build our model, and then we show what we've learned about the data, right? Data, discover, display. And all of you will remember that no back button, right? Nothing saved in a shared area. And when we delete something, it's gone forever. There is no undo. Well, yes and no. If you are inside the data, if you're inside the display, you can undo the change. But if you delete something here, you cannot undelete. Just keep that in mind, right? You cannot undelete. And in the next video, in the next WebEx, we're going to cover how to get data from the Twitter. We're going to cover more advanced visualizations, storybooks, and we're going to cover working in teams. So that's going to be around week 8, I think. Yeah. But if you have questions before then, feel free to email UTA and email me as well if you'd like. Yeah. So let's see, what other questions do we have? Anyone? Steve, is there anything that you would like to add to what I said?
No, very thorough as always, Yelena, and I know it's a lot for people to absorb, but I think they'll, as you said, the best solution is to go in and try things, experiment. The more time you spend, the more you will like the program, the more things you'll learn, and the better you'll get at it. So that's really the key. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording at this time and make sure that's saved. And then we'll be sending that out as a link to the faculty members who can post it in the classroom.